Bill Thompson, who, if I understand this correctly, he says he's. Are you suing the flat Earth movement? Is that what's happening?
I got kind of roped into something that actually has grown into something bigger than I thought it would. But there's a silver lining, and perhaps it's a blessing that it actually grew to the extent that it has grown to. It started off as just, I was between contracts. I'm a software engineer that was working on contracts at Microsoft. They like to hire contractors to do a lot of the work. So by law, Microsoft's required to give people downtime. So I was on downtime just as a mental exercise. I became fascinated. Like, why would anyone in today's world think the Earth is flat? And so I stumbled upon some guy, a flat earther, a guy who writes books. First of all, I don't think anyone really thinks the Earth is flat. I think there's either people who don't think, and then there are the con artists who are taking advantage of the gullible people that say they believe the Earth is flat. So
I would have to share that opinion. I don't think that anybody actually believes that the Earth is flat. That at best it's all make believe.
That's a good point too. I would say that idea has a lot of credibility, and I would have to go along with that as well. But
yeah, and one of the reasons I say this, because I talked to somebody for like 5 hours on this who just had struck me at first as being, this is the stupidest person I've ever encountered in my life. But then we get down to a point where I can actually prove that what he's saying is wrong.
Yeah.
And he gets hugely defensive about it.
Right.
And demonstrates that it doesn't matter if it's wrong, he's going to believe it anyway.
That's interesting, because I found that the facts that this guy was presenting for why he believes the Earth is flat, if you look at it closely, it actually proves he's wrong. If you look at it objectively, it actually proves the opposite. So I was working kind of selflessly. I was kind of on a mission to enlighten him as I was enlightening all the others. 9 out of 10 people that I debated on this absurdity, I got them to come around. But, I found that there's no reward in enlightening people. They never thank you afterwards. They just move on. So he had this contest to produce 2 repeatable proofs, and he added stipulations as we went along. Like he said, it has to be repeatable, or it also has to be beneficial, because clearly he realized that I was going to win this contest, and he was trying to find a way to back out of it. And so the proofs that I came up with are very simple. I mean, if anyone watches the sunset at ground level, right, and then gets in an elevator and goes up to the top of a skyscraper, they'll see the sunset at a different time. That's a repeatable, obvious thing. And what
I've been on the observation deck of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai.
Oh, wow.
That's if I remember correctly, 148 stories, and I was there at dusk. So yeah, I got to see nighttime envelop the city of Dubai while I'm still staring at the sun.
Exactly. Exactly. And in fact, because they practice Ramadan there, the time to start or break fast is depending on sunset. So they actually tell people that depending on what floor you're on, you have to, start your fast or break your fast. You break your fast, I think, at sunset. So they actually announce at what floor you're going to be on to, you could, something like that. I'm saying that as hearsay. Someone actually told me that. So depending on them telling the truth, that's how it is.
Well, so they're wrong, because break fast is in the morning.
Oh, funny. Exactly. So, and what I did is, since I'm a software engineer, what I created actually took a little bit of work, because I got I wrote a little bit of math where if you input all the geodetic data, like where the tower is at above sea level, how tall it is, all the input data, my little sequence of equations will actually predict the time difference based on what floor you're on. So I sent that off to him, and all this is on GitHub too, and it's free. Anyone can look at it. And so then the second proof I produced was determining that. Okay, so megastructure suspension bridges that are 2 towers, even though they're both plumb line straight up and down, they're a little bit further apart at the top than the bottom because of the curvature of the Earth. And this is something that we know we can actually see in the Golden Gate Bridge. And there's another bridge that I think the Narrow Barrows Bridge. There's a bridge that connects New Jersey to New York that's big enough so that they had to account for that when they built it. And so I wrote a program that showed that, how much difference. And all these are things that are actually usable and applicable and can help people if they want to go build a super huge suspension bridge. So I did that. And so I was very patient with him. I said, look, I think I won your contest. And he even has these rules where he it's very weird. I think in our country, free speech is an important thing. You can believe whatever you want, but I think you cross the proverbial line once you believe this nonsense and then you challenge the public to prove you wrong. And then when someone actually does prove you wrong, yeah, I think there's some kind of legal line there, some ethical line you've crossed.
Belief is subjective, and if you're talking about something that is objective, well, then it doesn't matter what either of you wants to believe. There's going to be the fact of the matter, which could be independent of either of your belief systems.
Interesting.
I don't think that the freedom of speech is typically taken as what you can be arrested for. Okay, that's a thing that many people in America don't understand is that, when I was in Dubai, for example, a couple of times I said things I was told that you can't say that here. Hopefully nobody heard you. We have to get out of here. So I'm just talking freely. But if you share your opinion in a not free country, then your speech can land you in jail.
Right.
It's not that, I'm going to go to somebody's venue and I demand that they give me a platform to spill my unpopular opinion. They don't have to, and my free speech has not been violated. It's whether the government comes in and puts me in jail for what I said. That's a free speech violation.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, so I wasn't going to convince the guy, so I just kind of wrote him off. I forgot about it. And just as fate happened, I had some free time, and I thought, well, this should be easy. Because I tried for months to reason with him, and there was no getting through to him, and so I just gave up. So I had some free time suddenly, and I thought, well, I'll just, see about suing him in small claims, and there's no way I can lose. I had all the facts, everything. I had all the math. I could easily show it all to the judge. And I practiced
I just want to catch up to where we're talking about now. So somebody offered a challenge with a reward.
Right.
And you had to meet these criteria, so he reneged on those objective criteria.
Exactly. Okay. So I thought, well, I've tried to reason with him, and there's no way I can get through to him. So I was relying on the legal system to fill that, job of listening to all the facts and logically reaching the right conclusion. See, and I didn't know what I was getting into. My only exposure or experience with small claims court is what I see on TV, like Judge Judy or Judge Wabner. The judge sits there and patiently gets to the facts, right? And and if they don't understand something, they ask. Okay. So I don't know how much detail or minutia I need to get into, because I'm concerned about, this defendant coming at me and saying, look, I'm slandering you or anything, but I'm just telling you the truth as I saw it. So I'm just telling you the truth. So as I understand it, I learned after the fact that the judge was actually a full-time clerk. Okay. She wasn't a full-time judge. And apparently in this county, I don't know the law. I'm not a lawyer, but as I see it, she decided to take this small claims court. She wanted to improve her own work history. She took on a small claims case just because, she wanted experience or something. I don't know exactly. I don't know how a full-time clerk can be a judge, but I only found out after the fact when I saw on some notices that I got from the court that it was her signature, and under her signature was, county clerk or something like that. So she came in there, and it was nothing like I experienced. It was a Monday morning, and I might be wrong, but she looked like she was a little tired. And she didn't say anything. She just said, Mr. Thompson, state your case. And I assumed that if someone's a professional, they know basic understandings of reality, you know? So I explained everything and I handed her all the documents, all the proof. And there's something else. I came there prepared to actually show on a laptop, a projector, everything. She just looked, she didn't even really look or study anything I said. And the defendant just said nonsense. He just said a lot of crazy stuff. And I assumed that she could easily see through it. You know, he's quoting railroad workers from the 1800s who didn't know the difference between flat and level, that would state that these guys from the 1800s had no education, that were saying, oh, the earth must be flat because we can build a railroad or a train, locomotive can't go up a hill, so there can't be any curvature. And it was laughable what the things he was saying. And I also
got on in a courtroom.
This happened in a courtroom, and I've got three people working pro bono. Two of them are my cousins. One that really hasn't helped. So I have a cousin who's a law professor who's helping me for free, and there's another guy that's a lawyer in Florida that's giving me advice too. And he told me that.
So you have an actual lawyer in the courtroom as well?
No. These are people after the fact that I've consulted, like, what the hell happened, and they told me that shouldn't have happened at all. That junk science isn't even admissible as evidence in a court of law. So the judge should have noted. The judge should have been just not even paid attention to what the guy said. But the thing is, these people.
This is small claims court. Small claims court typically doesn't have a lawyer there.
Typically you get. Oh, I could. Here's the deal. It's only for. Okay, so the contest was about $8,000 and change, right? Okay. And I actually made a video. I made a case for why I was asking for the maximum, which is $15,000. And I never got a chance to say anything. I just said my opening statements. He said his opening statements, and it was as if this young college kid serving as a judge, it was almost like she saw her job as trying to make everyone be friends, everyone just get along. That was the vibe I got off of her. That and the fact that I couldn't read her. After I said something that I thought was an impressible comment, like I would say something like, the ramifications of this case go outside the walls of this court. It extends beyond this. And I look at her, and that didn't have any impact on her. And I couldn't elaborate on why that was the case because there was no interaction. She just very passionlessly heard what I thought was my opening argument and his opening nonsense. And then she said, Mr. Thompson, is there anything you want to say to the defendant? And I said something along the lines of, have you ever considered having the emotional maturity to consider that you might be wrong? Something along those lines. And he didn't respond. Now, so to my dismay, she said because she didn't understand the math. I think that's what's really going on here, is that she didn't bother to understand what I said, right? To her, it was just gibberish. So she ruled that I didn't prove my case. Now,
I'm having a hard time following this because you're going into small claims court. Neither one of you has a lawyer,
right?
And you're arguing over whether the world is flat.
No, the case was whether or not I won the contest.
Okay.
Specifically.
Okay.
And I gave proof that I won the contest, but she didn't understand the math. It was very simple, but she didn't.
When you go into court again, will there be a lawyer this time?
Yes.
Okay.
There won't be any mistakes this time. By the way, this color is kind of weird. Let me see. Yeah, my color doesn't.
Is it going to be small claims court again?
No. Oh no. So this is kind of a long story. So I'm glad we're having a little podcast here. So afterwards, I was in disbelief and dismay. Right. So I found this girl's the judge, the clerk's email address, and I asked her. No one won in that case. Everyone lost. From my perspective, the defendant even lost because he wasn't enlightened at all. So I tried to get her thought process, and she never wrote back. And it wasn't until I stumbled on the fact that she's a full-time clerk that she got defensive and saying, well, legally I can do this, and she would say things like, we shouldn't talk about this because forever you're going to be the plaintiff and I'll be the judge, and she can't answer these questions. So,
Yeah, you're talking about emailing her about her
right,
judgment after the fact, right?
exactly,
Well, I
exactly.
think that there's an ethics consideration there that, yeah, you shouldn't be doing that.
All right, so I've stopped.
Okay.
So, so right away, the next day, I filed an appeal, and I assumed from my experience at the time that because he's a much better liar than I am at telling the truth. There's a famous quote by I think some actor that said, "The problem with the world is there's too many confident, stupid people, and the smart people are always cautious." Like as a
The smart people are full of doubt. Yeah, I can't remember who said that, but I'm familiar with the quote.
right. So I thought, I've seen, hypnotists at work where they convince people that they have a different name, or the number seven doesn't exist. So the mind has all kinds of holes in it that can be exploited by someone who's good at that. That's what I assumed happened
Hey,
somehow.
I gotta jump in again. I'm sorry for the another interruption, but hypnotism is another game of make believe.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're just getting your subject to make believe with you.
Interesting. Interesting. I think you might be
But
right.
I'm sorry that
All right.
interjection was
So
probably
I
not
stand
necessary.
corrected. I stand corrected. All right. So I think you're
Well,
right.
it's not. I wouldn't even call it a correction. I probably should have just kept quiet about it and let you continue your
All
point.
right. So I respect your intelligence, so I assume you're right. Okay. So, but somehow he conned them. I don't know how. And I've always, since a child, I've had this knack of being able to see like how magicians do their trick, that other people can't see. So to me, it was obvious that it was some kind of con job because I looked at the bailiff's expression, and oh, this guy thinks they're this. So they kind of their expression kind of went from scorn to kind of feeling sympathy for him, because oh, this person is deluded. He really believes what he's saying. So I think he played on emotions on some level. So the next day, right away, I filed an appeal. All right. Here's where it gets really interesting. So I was preparing for the appeal and studying it and talking to the pro bono lawyers of what I can do. I was going online. And so my preparation was for an appeal case. Now, an appeal is not a do-over, right? An appeal is that you have to show that legal mistakes were made, and I was well prepared for that. I typed up a 7-page speech to give at the appeals court, and there was a notice that came from the court, and on that notice there was a little bit of legalese that was in Latin, and the Latin term was de novo. I didn't know what that meant, and this judge, I don't know if I should say his name. I won't say his name. But the judge put that in the thing, a little small blurb that says it's going to be a de novo trial. I didn't know what that meant. And so I went there with my son to this place. I'll share with you the locations and everything. I don't think it's appropriate to go into that right here. But so I was preparing, it was very expensive to stay in that hotel because it was a game day. And so like $300 a night. So my son and I were practicing. I was rehearsing, went into the trial. The judge came out and said, okay, there's going to be the de novo trial. That means it's a complete do-over. That means the appeals court has already determined that legal mistakes was made by the small claims, which is also called the magistrate. So this trial is going to be a new trial, complete do-over. New evidence is allowed to enter it. Now, before we were doing this podcast, I looked up some quotes. There's one quote by Dale Carnegie about how failure and disappointment are stepping stones to success. And there's another quote by John F. Kennedy that says that an error is not a mistake unless you don't correct it. So I've learned a lot from the failure in small claims court. And I know that I want to do everything in my power to win this for reasons I'll get to in a second. But anyway, so the judge said this is a do-over. And I said, Your Honor, I was prepared for an appellate court. So in a blink of an eye, it went through the appeals to a new trial in Superior Court. So fast no one saw it happening. And the judge said, no, this is going to be a brand new case, new evidence is allowed in. And I got the feeling that the legal system finally is going to be on our side, on my side, on the side of logic and reason. Now, the case is going to be the new trial. They reschedule it for December 16th. And so since things have happened during this experienced that I couldn't even imagine happening. I'm going to assemble as best of my ability some, strength in numbers. And there's something to the fact that 2 heads or 3 heads or 4 heads are better than one. And so on Tuesday, I'm going to actually hire a lawyer locally that we're going to talk about things for about an hour. So, because I'm not a lawyer, but I can see how it might be, since the defendant's argument, the core of his argument is religiosity. And I think he used that he might have used that to a certain degree to play on, to either threaten or impress upon the full-time clerk serving as a lawyer that, she better rule in our favor because, I'm a religious guy and I'm not. He's a religious guy and I'm not. I think there might have been a little element to that.
For anybody watching this might be confused about this. This is going on in Georgia.
Yeah.
And then I have to clarify because I have you. Georgia is a state.
Right.
Southern American state, yes.
Right. So this is Georgia's a U.S. state. Okay. So, and the funny little side note might be the fact that after this was all over, I was okay when it first stopped, when the small claims court was over and I was left bewildered and stunned, like how could I have possibly lost? Maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. I started to. There was a woman that came off the elevator and she had like a 11 or 12-year-old son with her, and the kid had a pacifier. And I was standing next to one of these security guys, and I said, "Did you see that? That guy must have been like almost a teenager, and he's sucking on a pacifier." And this bailiff or security guard said, "Oh, well, that's Winder, Georgia. You'll see that kind of thing." So, I don't know.
Okay, well, I don't know what value that was, but yeah. So you've got a case coming up. The challenge still is you're not trying to prove that the Earth is round versus the Earth being flat. Right.
Right. So I'll have all the facts lined up where basically I can show that the original contract he posted online that I was agreed to, he actually, a month later, he went back and he added this absurd stipulation. And he even says in the contract, the contest rules that it was added, and he has a date on it. And he lined this little part. So I don't know how much I should get into this, but one of the
probably if it's might have any chance of negatively impacting your case, then don't bring it up.
That's a good idea. But basically, I want to say that I have all the ducks in a row to logically show that, of course, I won the contest.
Yeah, I'd be delighted to talk about strategies that you have, but I'm not going to be doing that on a public broadcast.
Okay. All right. So I have that's in the bag, but the only thing that it's sort of like you don't know what you don't know. Like I didn't know that a small claims court case would be as it was. I didn't know that the trial, what I thought was an appeal trial, was already a new trial. So going into this, I want to make sure that everything I can do, that I have everything ready, that even if something unexpected happens, we have that covered too. Because, yeah, like I said, he mentioned something really absurd in his defense in the small claims court. He said something about how the Bible says that, I'll show it to you later, but he tried to tie in some kind of thing where some quote from the Bible was a foundation for our current legal system or something crazy like that.
Well, we hear a lot of comments like that, and unfortunately, it's not just considered something crazy. It's the people who are in charge who are saying that. Our Board of Education says it over and over again.
Right. So there's some kind of instinct that I have where I know that a certain should I say you? I don't know. But if you were on the team, then the things that I don't know about or can say very well, I know that you could say very well. And I'm not asking, that's something else. I think that a lot of people are just afraid to get involved because it's the law, it's the court, they think that like there's this, I was trying to get a college professor, but I realize it's going to take a lot more work than me just saying, hey, do you want to participate in this? Because people naturally have a fear of something they don't know or is outside their comfort zone. So it's going to take a lot more convincing for some people than I originally thought, but that's okay because I'm going to do it. And also, to me, this is something. Okay, now I'm going to talk outside the box a little bit. The problem with the internet is that people who have crazy ideas that they know other people will want to believe, they're given a platform to gain momentum in that and actually get a following. So to me, the fact that people are on this flat earth nonsense tells me that there's something wrong that we need to push back against. And whenever this is something that I don't think anyone else has thought of. So when something's new and revolutionary, people don't know what to think about it. But if they have free speech should work both ways. If they're free to say this nonsense, we should be able to be free to show her that nonsense is wrong. And what concerns me is that little kids, they'll believe whatever their authority figure tells them.
And a lot of these believers, some of them have told me directly that we have the right to be wrong. So they refuse correction. Well, that's fine. You have the right to be wrong. That's true. I have the right to be right.
Right.
And so do the people you're lying to. They have a right to be right too, and everybody has a right not to be lied to, I would say, especially when they come to you looking for advice or especially for education, and you are misleading them. That should be criminal. So if you're teachers teaching young earth creationism, for example, to a classroom full of students, then there's something criminal in that, not just an unconstitutional breach of religion and state endorsement of it, but also simply in lying to the students the way they are.
And I don't want to go out on a limb here, but there's everything that he writes to the court, I don't think he knows. He's written letters because he's desperate. When we went to that what I thought was going to be the appeals case, which was just a short meeting where they rescheduled everything, my son was there, and I wasn't giving the defendant any eye contact, but my son was there, and he told me that he looks desperate, right? And so, in his desperation of wanting to get the whole thing dismissed, he wrote letters to the magistrate. And because of the law, I get copies of all that. And what he said in there, we could talk about later, but one of the things that he said in there came to mind over what you just said, in that he says something like, the plaintiff is accusing me of lying and misleading people, but I'm actually a good person because I teach Bible study at Sunday school or something like that. So he could be actually
he's a professional liar.
That's right. So so I don't know. This is something I got to hand off to my lawyer that I'm going to meet on Tuesday, because maybe what he's confessing to is he's doing exactly what you said, that he is actually teaching little kids that the earth is flat. And by the way, an objective literal interpretation of the Bible is, it clearly is in the framework of a flat earth. There's so many passages in that. And there's a clear one in Isaiah that says the earth is, it says it's round, but the Hebrew word that it actually used means a flat, round surface.
I can't remember which, shug and dur. And
there you go. There you go. That's
I can't
exactly
remember which one means which, but yeah, it describes the earth as a circle, not as a sphere. The word sphere did exist. And then, but also there, when it says circle, it doesn't even mean circle. It means compass, which was the other interpretation, meaning that the Lord sits above the whole of the earth. So that's not even making a statement as whether it's a disc or a ball. But there are other places where it describes the rakia, the firmament over the earth with the windows in it to let the rain in and all of that. Exactly. And a number of other statements that it makes. Yes, there's I think there was one website that was advertising 60 different passages that declare a flat earth, and I don't think there are that many. I think that some of the passages that they were talking about don't really work the way they want them to, but there are some that do. And especially when they start talking about the earth in relation to the rest of the cosmos, because that's when everything gets jacked. And you can tell that the book was written by people who had no idea what's outside the atmosphere, or that there even is a limit to the atmosphere.
Exactly. That's the facts. But I don't want to, I think I'll talk to a lawyer. What the strategy we have beyond this, I don't want to say anything that we're going to change. You know? So I'll talk to a lawyer, and he will he will help
I
us
have to
out.
apologize too because I thought you already had.
Oh, I've talked to pro bono lawyers, and I've talked to this one I'm going to actually hire on Tuesday. I've talked to him a little bit, but he keeps saying, no, you got to put forth the money before we talk anymore. So I'm going to do that on Tuesday. So.
Okay, so what you're talking about, you're going to court December
16th.
Okay, you're going to court December 16th. You're arguing whether you met the rules that were established on the date that you entered into the agreement, whether you were earned the $8,000, I guess.
Right.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask for more, Bo, though. But yeah. So
well, in the course of all that, is some what is the hesitation? Is it just that the guy doesn't have the $8,000, or is it because the argument requires proof or admission or whatever that the Earth isn't really flat?
That's a good question. I think I don't know. I think that's something for the lawyer and I to discuss. But I believe that after I make my case logically, because there's two parts of the brain: one's logic and one's emotion. So logically, I'm going to prove my case. But if the defendant tries some kind of emotional plea or something, or religious plea, I need to have something back up to refute all that. And so I want to win on all conceivable grounds, because let me explain something. After the magistrate, small claims judge, made her ruling, she wrote on a sheet of paper that I hadn't met the burden to prove, according to how she saw it.
That you had not met the burden of proof. Okay.
Right, which now I'm prepared to really. I've actually been. I'm not going to. We'll talk. But so I want to stay on the subject. So she made that. That ruling.
What I could do is this will go to my channel, but it's currently unlisted. Let me make sure of that. I'm pretty sure it's unlisted. It is unlisted. I don't have to make it public.
Make it public. I don't think I've said anything really bad, but
okay.
I'm just saying facts. So make it public. Okay. So the magistrate, the court, the point I'm getting to is that the defendant cherry-picked the results of the small claims court, and he's put all that on a blog on Facebook. And he said a lot of crazy stuff like, it's been proven in a court of law that there's no evidence of curvature. So what's happened is this has erupted in the flat earth community. This has become like an amazing, this has gone viral, and they're all claiming victory. So, it's very important to me that I win this and do everything I can to win this, and when it's in Superior Court in December 16th. So the reason why, one lawyer told me that all I have to do is just show the facts and I've won. But I found that lawyers can be wrong, and I want to make sure that there's no wiggle room that the defendant's going to have because he's really, like I said, he's a really good con artist, and so I want to have that part of of his defense covered, and bring in experts in that kind of field that can refute all this nonsense very well. And I don't think anyone's better than you at doing something like that.
Well, thank you. I was wondering what I know that you had invited me to come to this court trial, and I was hesitant because I don't understand what purpose I would serve in that capacity. Well,
I can see it. I've thought about it a number of times. Let's see. I've made some notes here. Well, so the basis of the defendant's argument is rooted in religion. There's a little notes I had. And I don't know anyone else who can be more effective at destroying the validity of that.
You don't want to put me on the stand?
No, I'm not gonna do anything that you're not comfortable with. So you'll know all the questions and answers beforehand.
Okay, but I just want to clarify. I mean, it was in the capacity of a witness, right? And so you want to put me on the stand in Georgia to destroy religion. I can address the claims made in defense of a flat Earth. I can do that, and I can say where that came from. Very often, not probably not always, but in a number of different examples, I could be helpful with that maybe.
I'm sure you will be. There's something else. It's not like you think it is. You would think that a court of law is all rational and logical, but
I am thinking that you're going to have to focus on the rules of the engagement,
right,
and how you met that. And ultimately, it sounds like he's claiming that if you didn't show that you met the rules of engagement that you guys agreed upon before you entered into this contest, that's what the judge is saying. And then the flat Earth movement is saying a complete lie about it being that there's no evidence of curvature, which I think the new judge might be interested in that public statement.
Yeah.
Because, things like that are going to have to be addressed. There's going to be court records where they're going to address how you move forward from here.
Right.
Yeah, for example. And yes, ultimately, if you do prove that, even if the Earth was flat, if you prove that you met the criteria for that contest, well, then he's lost the contest.
Exactly.
And does that mean that there was proof of curvature? No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't mean either of those things.
Right.
As I'm looking at it at a glance. Now, I don't know what the particulars are for the type of evidence that you had to bring up. So I'm guessing that somewhere therein is going to be where the argument over whether sphericity or flat-hardness, I don't know. I don't know how to Discworld, where that's going to come in. I think we're amusing to watch anyway.
Have you seen any of the videos by a guy who calls himself Cold Hard Logic? CHL. He's really good. Yeah, he's really good. I find his content very entertaining.
Yeah, and that his videos actually bring me to my next question on this. The guy that you're talking about, does he have a model? Because a lot of flat earthers don't. They refuse to have a model of their own because they know that there's going to be flaws in it.
Right. So no, as far as I know, no. All he has is this for lack of a better term, arguments as to why the Earth is not round or something. But all of his points are nonsense.
Yeah,
so
so
he doesn't have a model. He doesn't have a model as far as I know.
He has to have one in order to have a conversation. If he can't just tell you that you're wrong without proposing the alternate explanation, which he then has to defend. And they won't do that because they know they can't defend it. Because, as I said, this is all about make-believe. There's not about truth anywhere in this.
Exactly.
And the reason they want to do this, the reason they want to make believe is because science cannot account for a flat Earth. If the Earth actually was flat and gravity doesn't even exist, then basically you can throw all science out the window. And so you would have to believe in a God because they have the God of the gaps fallacy. If science can't explain it, therefore that somehow qualifies as evidence of God. Because remember, every logical fallacy must be employed in defense of the God belief. So if you really just got to believe in a God, then you don't want to understand science. And the less you understand about science, the more you can believe about God.
That's brilliant. That's very good, Aaron. Sorry. Aron, sorry. Yeah. Oh, by the way, I wonder if anyone else knows the roots of Aron Ra. Isn't it like a spoonerism of Amun Ra, or am I wrong?
It is. I mean, I was already under the name Aron, so I mean, I needed to come up with a login name for Usenet back in the days when I was talking to Talk.Origins. And everybody else has a handle. I wanted to come up with a handle, and I didn't think very long. I already knew enough about Amun Ra to see that as a template for the God of Western monotheism, that Yahweh is in fact largely based on the composite God of Amun Ra. So Aron Ra, it just fit. I had no idea that I was going to get so well known by that name, or I probably would have put a little bit more thought into it.
Yeah, the name Bill Thompson. There was actually two other people at Microsoft named Bill Thompson, and I've thought about how to change my name too, because I kind of enjoyed the fact that I was kind of like no one knew who I was, or I was kind of anonymous. But yeah, I might change my first name at least as a nickname.
At least your last name wasn't Gates.
Yeah, there you go, Bill Gates. That's right.
All right, so I guess we were talking about how I don't, and I still don't know what part I could possibly play in this, but sure, I said I would go observe this court case, and I think that's going to be amusing.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. If nothing else, it'll be entertaining. Absolutely.
Yeah. And where is this?
It's okay. So it's not in Atlanta. Winder is about an hour away, I think. So you fly into Atlanta, and you'd be driven up to Winder, and there's a lot of nice places to stay. So it's all good. And when so I've been out there a few times now. Last time I went there, I went out to test the.
What airport would I be coming into?
I know there's two in Atlanta, but you'd have to look at the itinerary. I'm not sure.
So I would end up having to be in Atlanta.
Oh, you'll be picked up. It'll be like I'll be there with a sign by the gate. I'll find out where to go. You don't have to worry about anything. I'll drive you to Atlanta. You don't even have to rent a car if you don't want to. Everything.
Okay, I was just thinking because there was things I wanted to do in Atlanta. Oh. So if I'm going to be in Atlanta, I can take advantage of it and do those things.
Sure.
Okay, and so I would arrive the day before court.
Right.
And then I would just get to Winder, and you said it's an hour away. What time is it? Well, we can work out those details. But I mean,
so yeah, it's the day before, and the court is on Monday. I think at 1:30.
Okay, yeah, we can work that out.
But it'd be best if you stay in Winder. I found that it's not a good idea to stay in Atlanta and then drive up to Winder because you're gonna be exhausted.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was kind of in the same thought. Do what I wanted to do in Atlanta, and then, like, if you have a rental car or whatever, get up to Winder and go ahead and take care of it. Like
if you want to rent a car, we can work that out too. That'd be fine.
Okay.
But there's among all the times that I've gone out to Atlanta, the first time I was in Atlanta to file all the papers to sue the guy in small claims, we stayed in Atlanta, and we were driving back, and we're going down a road. And my son's really into anime, and so I stopped at a little anime store to see if I could buy some. I bought little things they might like. And then I asked, where's a good place to eat? And they said, oh, down that way. And we're driving back, and right away, because my wife is Brazilian, I recognized the sign, Fogo de Chão. It was in Portuguese. They speak Portuguese in Brazil. And I knew right away what it was. And I pulled in because it's a national recognized Brazilian steakhouse.
Yeah, so, we have them here too. Matter of fact, I went to one on my birthday.
It's good. Yeah, it's an experience. Yeah, so that's pretty good.
I'd be happy to hear more about the stuff that we don't want to broadcast. But I just wanted to, because I had no idea what it was that you were proposing to me, and it wasn't. I got to be honest, it was not making sense what I was reading in the email. So I just wanted to have a conversation. What are we talking about?
Interesting. Yeah,
I thought was that you were suing the flat Earth community, that you were going to be deciding whether the Earth is flat or round in a courthouse, and I'm completely not down with that because it's not decided in a courtroom.
That's true, but at the same time, since the way I see it, since they're assuming that the way it worked out in the magistrate that it was a victory for them. So we should have the right when we overturn that to say that's a victory for us.
Well, yeah, they will do that. I mean, look at the Scopes monkey trial in 1925, right? And that's whether some guy violated a law that was on the books in 1925 about what you can teach. It had nothing to do with the validity of evolution as a scientific theory, but that's the way it was painted in the public.
But I think we need to push back against this kind of stuff because it is taught to kids, and I think it's.
So I'm sure we can. It will be amusing, and there might even be some absurd fanfare, like there was in 1925, for example.
Yeah. So this is. I think it might be, for lack of a better term, a blessing that it wasn't decided in the magistrate, because now it's gotten some exposure and notoriety on the flat Earth world. They're talking about it, and that's kind of like, I don't think that.
Anyway. Well, there are going to be some people that say that this sounds crazy. I completely understand that. Yes, this sounds crazy. That's why we're having this conversation, is because
Right.
it all sounded crazy to me.
Right.
So
So
but,
that's something I've learned, is that sending people email is not as effective as like Skyping or talking to someone in person. Because there was a, because my proof is mathematical in nature, and since it's mathematical, anyone can do it with a piece of paper and a pencil, right? They have the time and the patience, but just the fact that it's in the form of a computer program on GitHub, the defendant's excuse was, "Oh, that's not really a proof. That's just a program. Like somehow it's evil magician work or something. There's some trickery involved." And so I wanted to get a guy who was like a college computer science professor to say, "No, there's nothing to it. There's just a iteration and sequence of math combinations." But just the fact that I've emailed some people like you, they go, "What is this? I don't want to have anything to do with this." So it's very hard to find someone to come on board. And that's one of the reasons why I'm going to get an attorney, because he's probably better at that than I could be.
well,
He
you
probably,
kind of need to walk into a courtroom with an attorney, just period.
right,
Yeah, I do not advocate representing yourself.
right. I can't.
And
Another
obviously,
thing, I like to put. Go ahead.
go ahead.
Okay, so I can't put myself on the stand and question myself. That's so obviously I need someone, an attorney, to do that. So I'll strategize about that all this coming week, and so we'll talk more about that.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to close this up. Bill Thompson, best of luck in presenting evidence of curvature, I guess, is the goal, or better luck getting somebody to admit, even under duress, when their precious religious beliefs have been proven to be wrong.
Right.
Good luck with that.
So I'll just close by saying I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. I've always been a fan. So I actually was looking at email back in 2015. I think I wrote you a very complimentary email. I was impressed with the work you do. So
Thank you very much, sir.
all
I'm
right,
going to go ahead and end it, and we'll talk later.
thanks.